Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today in this another conversation of the Policy Panchayat, where we get guests doing incredible work in the policy space to share their journeys and learnings with us. Today we have a very special guest, someone I have really looked up to. He's someone who defies age and all conventions of overachievement, if I can put it that way. Prateek Kanwal. I don't know how to describe him. I'll let him do that, but he's the founder of the Kautilya School of Public Policy. He's been to HKS. He's the founder of CPL. That does probably 10 other equal impactful things. So I'll give that to Prateek. Prateek, why don't we start with the introduction?
I usually don't believe in introductions. I'm just somebody who loves to contribute to impact, loves to mentor and support young minds to sort of create the same kind of journey which I'm going through. Basically, I don't want to look back when I'm old and say, let's do mentorship and let's build another generation now that I have done. I think we should all grow together. And that's why I'm trying to build a community in public policy. And your work is pretty inspiring. I think you're contributing pretty much equally to building this space as I am. So a little bit about myself. I've been in the education sector for about 12 years. My primary passion is education. Started off with school education and now obviously higher education and skills. So I'm pretty much covering the entire gamut in that sense. I, worked with started off with CRISIL ratings as an education sector expert there. Then went on to do the Teach for India fellowship for 2 years. Helped Teach for India build the movement across the country as their expansion head and government relations head, and then worked a bit with ARC charity, which was setting up Madhya Pradesh School Quality Assurance Program. Then went on to do my master's in public policy at the Kennedy School. There I got a chance to spend time in Liberia to study the quality assurance work in the education space there, and to also spend some time in Dublin understanding their energy policy and how they're trying to sort of change people's mindset to adopt cleaner technology there, which is of relevance obviously going forward in India as well. Also started the CPL from the dorm room of HKS. Obviously was inspired by the fact that dorm rooms, are a reality, and startups coming out of, dorm rooms, do well.
Yeah.
So I obviously didn't want any commercial angle at that point. So it was pretty much in the spirit of building other people to come to HKS, to go to other policy schools, study in the policy space. And I used to get a lot of calls about what should we do, how should we get here, and I said, why should there be a program wherein you link the best of talent in India to the best of policy schools, because India at that point did not have much to talk about in terms of the policy school or the policy space. So also came back to India the moment I got my degree. I wanted to serve the country which has given me everything, and worked with Educate Girls for 4 years, trying to understand the challenges in the girls' education space. Was leading their advocacy, strategic partnerships, did a bit of fundraising, comms, etc. as well there. And during that time, I also got a wonderful opportunity to sort of step up and play a leadership role in setting up Kautilya School of Public Policy, which is based out of Hyderabad. It was first to offer masters in public policy in the country, and is sort of trying to build cutting edge public policy school in India, which can be at par with the best in the world. And currently, I work with New Globe Education as my full-time job, and which is to do with building, transforming government education systems across the country, and working at scale using technology. So I work on the strategic partnership side. I lead their advocacy and policy work. So that's a bit about myself.
And just to remind our audiences, Prateek is all of, I don't know, 33, 34, something in his mid-30s. Or anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I look old. If you go by my looks, I think my family thinks I'm way older, but I'm not that old, folks. I am 33. So it's just that probably hereditary, or my lack of time to not get them colored, something like that.
But no, that's just stellar, Prateek. But maybe to kickstart, right? Why don't you tell us? And since this is so much of interest to a lot of our guest audiences as well, why don't you tell us more about your experience in the broader education space, right? Like teach for India, educate girls and art, new globe. Like maybe two, in your view, two of the biggest problems facing the space, and maybe in your opinion, like a couple of solutions that you would propose. Maybe just your overview of the space overall.
I think the biggest challenge the education sector faces is lack of good quality teachers, right? We've not been able to invest in teachers, provide them the ecosystem, provide them the training, in-service training, pre-service training, which is excellent, right? We unfortunately, the current crop of teachers have not seen excellence themselves in their lives, right? So how would they emulate or learn from? They have nobody to look up to, right? So we've not created these enough examples, and the previous generation itself is coming from an education system which never showed them excellence. So how do you expect excellence to come in? It can't be created if it's not seen, if it's not visible, if people have not imbibed it, if people not so how do you build in this talent pool which is not seen the best of education in their own lifetime, right? So that's one challenge, right? We have an education system which is trying to replicate what they have learned in their past, which is rote learning, which is just ensuring that you crack the exam, get a government job, right? So how do you expose them to this broader changing environment where every day the world is changing and the new skills are required, right? So that's the gulf which we need to bridge. The second is, I think, the fact that all our nonprofits are just worried about funding, right? So if you had hope from the civil society, the challenge they face is the lack of funding, right? Nobody wants to work for free. They don't get the best talent. If they get the best talent, they have to pay that talent, and to pay that talent starts the cycle of find a funder, do everything to retain a funder. Put your strategies according to what the funder needs,
Yeah.
right? Basically, you live to please the funder, right? So pleasing the funder syndrome and ensuring that you stay afloat is something which the civil society, which is trying to solve the problem from outside, is marred. And what happens is that too often most nonprofits tend to focus on inputs and forget that outcomes are something which at the end of the game they will shift the balance. So there are a lot of nonprofits, but very few of them, and I've been lucky to work with some of them, are able to deliver outcomes and take pride in delivering outcomes. So we need to have a shift in the mindset of the civil society, that funding you have to move away from, and outcomes based funding is something the funders need to sort of encourage, right? So I think what two problems I'll summarize are: A, the sheer talent required, which understands excellence from the government school system side, and the focus required to deliver outcomes and set up the best practices, set up the model education systems from the civil society side without focusing too much on the funding side. And the funders need to go a little easy on the civil society, right? They don't need to sort of be too focused on how the nonprofit is doing on a day-to-day basis. Just figure out, can they get outcomes at the end of the day? So these are the two sort of challenges I would say in the broader education space, which I have come across. I mean, I'm sure there are many others. So this is what I've come across.
Super insightful, Prateek. Just building on that, and definitely one of my favorite bits of like all the things that you do with the CPL, right? Especially because it's really community focused. Actually, I'll let you speak on this. So what is CPL, right? What's the idea and what does it do?
Okay, so CPL was born from the fact that when I went to Kennedy School, it was not that popular and not that old, but I still went there 6 years back. And at 6 years back, if you look at the policy space and you look at now, it is now a household name. People talk about it. It is taken up as a viable career option, viable study option. At that point, very few people had even known, right? So when I told them I'm going to Harvard, half my family, half my friends, well, rather most of them thought that I was going to the business school. They're like, business school, MBA. I'm like, no, this is MPP. Oh, MBA in policy. No, this is not MBA in policy. This is Masters in Public Policy. It's a separate course. There's a separate school. So, there are a lot of myths surrounding public policy as a sector, right? So for me, I'm sort of in a way lucky that I'm able to sort of build a sector as I grow, right? Not many people get a chance because, MBA is like a 40-year-old 50, concept in India. And people who do now MBA do it as a well-established field. Here I did something wherein people did not know about it. There were no schools in India at that point. And so just the fact that I used to get a lot of queries and a lot of myths around the fact that, oh, what is this? Seems exciting. I wish I could also do it. What is the pathway? And our colleges in India at the undergrad level don't have many subjects around public policy, right? Even though liberal arts is starting off, at that time, the fellowships were very few. I think LAMP existed, Teach for India existed, Gandhi existed, and one more, probably the Ashoka one.
Nothing else.
Pretty much 3 or 4 fellowships existed, and very small kind of a cohort. PMRDF was also shut down at that point, right? So what would that talent pool do after these fellowships, right? Because they're ignited, they are being, as they say, they've tasted blood in terms of options and ways to serve the society outside of the civil servants work. And then there is this large pool of people who write the civil service exam but don't get through, right? What happens to them, right? So there's this market sizing which I did. Obviously, for a lack of better word, a consulting case study would be to market size the thing. When I did the market size, I realized that there is a latent demand, right? But there is no way our colleges or any other institute is able to sort of channelize these people, channelize their energies onto proper career paths in this field, right? And hence was CPL, or Citizens for Public Leadership, was born in. And the idea was to offer a fellowship to select few working professionals as well as final year undergrad students from top tier schools, and people from the DBA background, minorities, people who are in these smaller cities and are like that, I want to create change here, but I don't have the wherewithal or the skills, knowledge, networks to do this. And we started off small with about a cohort of 20. We received about 300 applications back then, and it was very difficult for us to start. And now we are in the 6th year. As we speak, we're in recruiting for our 6th cohort of fellows. The idea is that we take them through a 1-year rigorous part-time fellowship, which is done on Zoom. Why Zoom? Because people come from across the country with the common aim of learning about public policy. And the idea is that we do make them meet once a year in July in Delhi for a period of 2 days, which is called the CPL Policy Conference. And the idea here is that through this 1 year, we give them access to knowledge, skills, and networks required to build a career in public policy. So we put them on a path. So they may have some experience coming from, say, nonprofits, political consulting, fellowships, etc. But how do you sort of build a concrete, pathway into going into top tier policy schools, starting their own ventures? So if you see Netri Foundation, Led by Foundation, if you see Painted Red, and the number of people who've gone on to actually study at Kennedy, Columbia, Lee Kuan Yew, and LSE, etc. That's the proof of the pudding, right? We were able to get these young mind who were interested, like passionate like me, but probably not as lucky as I was, because I just happened to be there at the right place at the right time. I got a full scholarship from the World Bank to actually do this program, right? Not many. So it was my way of actually giving back as well. That can I share whatever little I'm gaining at Harvard or from my network which I've built, and can I give it back to the society? So that was the genesis of, and today we're in the 6th year. About 200 fellows have graduated, and so that's a bit about CPL.
And Prateek, I couldn't agree more. I keep telling people when they ask me that what are the skills that I use to do my job at Twitter, or even the startup that I run, and even while I was in the parliament, and I tell them that honestly 99% of it is communications, right? It's the soft skills part, right? You have to be a people's person, you have to be a phenomenal communicator, very polished in whatever you do. Everything else is fine. Like, I don't do graphic design, I don't do coding, I don't build websites. If needed, I can learn it. It's because hard skills are definitive. Either I know how to code or I do not, right? Soft skills are an entire spectrum. Anyways, but no, couldn't agree more. Which brings me to HKS. Like, I'll just stick to HKS for now. How was it there? Like, what was that experience like? And from that, if you can also draw us to Kautilya, like, because I know these two are deeply interrelated, right? You're going to HKS and you're sitting with Kautilya.
For me, HKS was like a kid in a candy shop, right? Imagine, if you were to be left in a candy store or whatever else you like, and there was a full store of it, and every candy was as delicious as the other. That was how I felt. I mean, I
Yeah.
land there, and I'm surrounded by Nobel laureates. I'm surrounded by the best of the best of the world, actually coming there to study a subject which I care for deeply. The kind of discussions in every corner of that town. Forget that, just the entire fact that you are in Harvard University, where there's a law school which you've only seen in probably Suits, or heard about in Suits, and these, have probably seen the movie, the Social Network, and you've seen a bit of that area, and you land there. First 3-4 months, I was like having an imposter syndrome. Do I belong here? What is my place here? Why am I being paid to actually study here? Why am I getting salary to be studying here? Like, what have I done? I mean, I was just doing my work, and somebody recognized that. And, just the fact that the ecosystem is so, developed, right? You have MIT, best in technology, you have the best business school, you have the best law school, best education school, and the best policy school, and the best med school, right? And this is not it. There's Boston University, and then there are 10 other things happening in and around the city, right? So that ecosystem itself, motivates you to sort of learn a lot more than you can probably do in 2 years, right? So I focused particularly on advocacy, building my narrative, communication skills, public speaking, campaign management, stuff on data, stuff on how to start social entrepreneurial journey, how to run nonprofits. These were my sort of core focus areas at my time at Kennedy, and my focus was to build and strengthen a network which I could tap into or work with and through to actually come back to India and create a larger impact, right? So my focus was on doing Harvard India Conference. I did two of them during my time there. I did an India trek, went on an Israel trek, went on a Colombia trek to actually sort of explore, as well as get people to explore my country and show them through conferences of what India is all about and why is it tipped to be the next big thing in the world. So that was my focus area, and the journey in itself is never complete, right? Once you go there, 2 years just pass through like this, right? And then you're like, oh, can there be an additional year? Like, oh, what if there was an additional year? What would I have done? So I think it is not a rat race. It is a very, very easy environment. Even if you don't focus on your academics and get a good bare minimum grade, that's fine. As long as you don't skip the classes and don't fail the classes, they don't focus you too much on academic rigor and like, okay, you have come here, so just two assignments, they just allow you to explore, cross register in other colleges. You could do a cross registration course at law, business school, MIT, wherever you want, right? So it's a very free environment, and you're not a caged, as some of the Indian education system makes you do. So you could explore what you want and the way you want to do the degree you can. So I think that is where I learned something different from what I'd learned before going here.
No, couldn't agree more, Pratik. And in fact, I have a friend who's currently at HKS, and apparently he's taking up courses with HBS as well. And
Yes.
as you mentioned, candy store, right? It's an intellectual candy store. Like you can.
Yes.
Now, more importantly, and I've been to Kautilya a month back, right? I was in Hyderabad. Um, you are trying to recreate some of that over here. Like I interact with the students. I've done that at CPL as well, and I see that there's a lot of intellectual curiosity that's allowed. In fact, it's encouraged to flourish in the campus that you're trying to build. Tell us more, like, because I see Steve Jarding, sorry if that's his name. Like you've got, he's teaching political campaigning, right? Like these are some absolute luminaries. So what's the idea with Kautilya, and what is it that you're trying to build here with the policy school in India?
The idea was that not everybody will be able to, and not everybody should also go to Kennedy, right? Had there been 10 schools in India at the level of ISB, IIMs, imagine, like, why don't we have technology schools, right? We have med schools, we have the best, MBA schools, right? Best art schools, design schools, NID, whatever, right? Music schools, right? Why don't we have a policy school which is world class? Singapore is probably half of Gurgaon in terms of its population, has a world famous policy school, right? A closed economy also has policy schools. We are a flourishing economy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
We don't have a policy school which is at par with the rest of the world. So my aim was to actually not just recreate the environment which I had seen in Kennedy, but also create a mixture of the best of the Western frameworks and how they can be used in the Indian context. Because I think what I missed at the Kennedy School was the Indian context, right? Despite the fact that there are a number of Indians there aren't enough Indian professors who can teach at what scale we operate, at what complexity, at what diversity we operate,
yeah,
using that philosophy, ideology, using that diversity as the foundation. How can Western frameworks be adopted? So we do have professors coming from Harvard. Professor Steve Jardine, Professor Moshik Temkin is there right now as we speak, teaching the course on leadership, right? We did get Glenn Cremon from Stanford to actually teach writing. He's a New York Times senior, editor who teaches at Stanford and now was teaching writing at Kennedy's, at Kautilya. Sorry for the faux pas. But the idea is that can we give them the same infrastructure, both physical, intellectual, the networks, the frameworks, and teach them the complexity which is required to thrive in India, right? You need to understand the complex challenges, the value systems we operate with, the way of life in India, right? And the sheer scale, right? So the idea is that if you see, we have a full-fledged, I don't know if you did a tour of the Kautilya, we have a studio, right? A TV studio,
I did, yeah.
which is straight out of any news channels, top class news channels you see in Noida. So we spent a lot of money building a entire studio so that we could train the students the art of communication in a studio, right? Not just in theoretical terms, right? And Steve Jarding was doing that, right? Best of the best journalists, Nidhi Rajdan, Smita Sharma have come and actually taught students how to actually conduct TV debates, conduct or be, part of TV debates in that sense, right? How do you actually, question or take questions, what your posture is going to be like. All of this is actually taught as part of the education at Kautilya, right? And then there is obviously focus on data, focus on soft skills, focus on climate, focus on education, focus on topics which are not discussed enough in India, but are going to be the future. Something like tech policy, right? The world, and nobody knows this better than you. I think the advent of tech and the clash with policy, right, is something which our generation is now seeing, right? And how do you navigate through these complex environments, right? So the idea was that India needed an Atmanirbhar policy school which is at par with the IIMs and the ISBs, and the aims in terms of offering good quality policy education. And our statement to the world was that it's okay if you don't do civil service, right? It's okay, if you don't go to Kennedy School. There is a safe haven for all of you which can deliver the best of policy education in India, and that's what Kautilya is.
Yeah. I'll quickly make a segue, Prateek, to a question that's one of the most frequently asked. People know how to apply to an HKS or a U Chicago or a Blavatnik school, and for that matter. But since you have been to the school that was a World Bank scholar, and more importantly, you mentor people to get into these schools. I know several who have got on full scholarship just by the mentorship you have shared. Maybe 4 or 5 things that you will give as, I mean, I don't like this word in particular, but say tips, right? That people should keep in mind while applying.
Well, I've done a detailed post on LinkedIn because I get asked this
And
question.
we will link that
But
in
I
the
will
show
try to,
notes for everyone.
yes, and I will try to summarize this for you, Yash. And it's a good question. People need to understand what is a policy school and how do you apply to it, right? First of all, be genuine. Right? Why are you coming in this? What is your reason for being in this sector? What motivates you? What moved you? Right? What is your backstory? How does it link to the fact that you're applying to a policy school? Right? What is the problem that you're trying to solve? Quantify it, tell us the pathway to doing that, and where does this education fit into that pathway. How does this education help you build the foundation required to solve this problem, and what will that eventual solution look like, right? Don't say that the Indian students have this way of writing long form essays because we are taught it, jitna bada essay hoga utne zyada marks milenge. That's from our history classes. But here you need to be succinct. You need to be, no flowery language needs to be used. No, but you have to be genuine. You have to quantify the problem, quantify your solution, make it as visible as possible, make it as understandable as possible to the reader. And the fact that you are applying to a policy school, there has to be a focus on your value system. You have to bring that out. It is, the words I will change the world or I want to change the world doesn't matter. Even if you're doing something small, which has, big impact, right? To a community which is nearby, that's fine, right? They don't want everybody to solve for climate change problem or become the prime minister of the country. They need doers who actually are able to understand the problem, create a solution for it, and actually have good value system to carry that forward, right? So that's one part, right? The other, I would say, is try to show them what impact you've done in the past. In real terms, in not just like worked with a team of 6, right? I mean, do what, right? How many children did you impact? What was their learning outcomes? What was their learning aim? Everything has to be quantified, right? And the fact is that, don't treat one school to be as same as the other. Often you write once and then you sort of tend to just copy paste it for the other school, right? Every school is trying to ask you different things, as different value system. A Columbia is very different from a Kennedy, is a very different from Yale, is very different from Princeton, is very different from a Chicago Harris, is very different from a UC Berkeley. So every school has different value systems, different ways to solve for a problem. Understand that school, customize it to that, and please proofread well, right? Do not, because as Indians, we have a very bad habit of just writing verbose stuff without even understanding that short sentences, just correct grammar is very important for the reader, right? And a cogent school of thought, right? So don't get into one argument and stretch it for the sake of stretching it. They like to understand very quickly in the first 2 minutes whether they're able to visualize who you are, because there's no interview for policy schools. Most policy schools just read your application and send you an email, accepted or not accepted. Even scholarships, the scholarship which I got is worth 2 crore. I just sent in an application, got an email back, congratulations, thank you, that's it, right? That's the process. So it's a black hole, right? And I'm trying to solve for that black hole by saying, do not try to be smart and showcase your smartness by showing that I could write these fancy words, right? Right to the point, write the problem which you're trying to solve for, create a cogent solution for it, which is viable, right? And show them what skills you need to do that, what you already have, what are your areas of development, right? And say that, there are certain leadership skills also which you need, and identify what skills that school solves for. Say that this is why I want to come to your school, right? So that's the argument you need to create for a policy school.
No, couldn't agree more. And again, for audiences, I know Prateek is very busy, but he's extremely generous with his time. So I will link his LinkedIn in the show notes. So feel free to reach out, and I'm sure he'll be happy to help to the extent possible. Quickly coming on to the next thing, Prateek. Yes, last two things, right? And again, these are questions that our audiences have asked me to ask a few, right? Number one, some career principles that you would share for anyone looking to build a career in the policy space in India today.
I think the innate curiosity to solve for challenges which are around you, right? If climate change bothers you, it does certainly bother me right now. And I'm thinking I'm in education, but suddenly this climate problem is really bothering me because I'm in Delhi. I go for walk, and probably my lungs are getting affected every day. It bothers me, right? It bothers me to a point that I am angry about it, right? If you are angry about certain things around you, be it roads, in India, they say you throw a problem and you'll find a policy problem. Sorry, you throw a stone and you'll find a policy problem, right? So throw a stone and see, where does it pinch you more, right? Does it pinch you on climate? Does it pinch you on education, politics? Does it pinch you on infrastructure? Does it pinch you on, microfinance? Does it pinch you on the social fabric of this country? What is it that bothers you? And if there is something that bothers you, that's a good start. That you're fit case for public policy, right? This is not the area where you say, okay, I want to make money, that's why I want to be in public policy. There are other fields. You can do an MBA, you start a business. Here you're trying to solve for a problem, right? So find a problem. If you are bothered by a problem, that's the first case. Second, be data oriented, right? You need to find evidence. You need to rely on evidence. If you're a guy or a girl who likes finding evidence and trying to solve for things using evidence, this is it, right? Good communication skills, right? If you have a hold on communication, you have a degree in liberal arts, history, English, etc., that's good start. A lot of people tell me, oh, I'm English honors. That's great. You can write, you can read, you can do well in communications, right? Data you can pick up, right? Coding you can pick up, right? But have a sort of a flavor for in your life for reading, writing, expressing yourself, right? Third, don't shy away from the word politics. You can't de-link policy from politics, right? You
Drawing
got
at
to be
lips.
involved.
Yeah.
Yes, you got to be involved in the nerve center, which is the politics, right? And the fact that be okay with earning at about 70-75% of the market price in the short run. In the long run, everything evens out. Be okay with the when you do a fellowship, you don't earn much, right? When you work with the non-profit sector, you don't earn much, but in the long run, it all evens out. So don't be in a hurry to just go for the paycheck, right? The other thing I would say is have a growth mindset, right? Be curious to engage with the opposing ideology. Be open to other countries. Be open to travel. Be open to exposing yourself to different ideas, right? If you are somebody who's by nature very impatient, that's good. You need to be impatient in public policy, right? Right. And at the same time, you need to understand that things will take time. Right. So that has to be has to be at an impatient level, and the grind has to be with the patience, right? I always say people, this is God's work. Right. What you're doing is God's work because you're by the end trying to solve for or changing somebody's life on the ground. Right. So you've got to have a great value system of giving, right? Not be too perturbed by what my friends are doing, where they're going. My friends went to all sorts of places, did all sorts of great things. They are also happy, but it's not that I am not. My happiness is okay, today I'm able to, work with a policy school, work with, fellows at CPL. I do a job which excites me. I, like, doing that. And I find time to actually, go the extra mile and, at 10 o'clock at night also talk about policy and be absolutely happy about it. Right. So chase happiness, chase impact is the mantra, which I would say in that sense, would be the right mindset.
I think if I can sum it up, Prateek, what he's saying is be impatient with action and patient with results, right? And
Yes.
if there's just one thing I could add there is that, and there's something I've noticed, Prateek, time and again, in people who actually succeed or whatever, hunger in the belly,
Yes.
काम करने की bhook, as we call it, right? That if you're really hungry to do things and in that impatient in that sense, right? If you have the fire, the desire, the hunger to really work on things, right? You don't rest on your laurels, yourself start in that sense. Because the thing is, there are way too many opportunities in the policy space, but none of it is linear. It's all sideways, right? You have to spot it and drag it to yourself, right? Because given how unstructured the space in India. But nonetheless, final thing, right? I know it's very late in the day and you've been very kind with your time. Where do you see the policy space in India headed, right? Where do you see maximum, let's just say, opportunities being created, right? What skills might be most in demand? Right, if you can sum it up.
I think as India sort of transitions from a developing country to a developed country in our lifetimes, hopefully, this is a space which will be in maximum demand. You see, the governments are professionalizing. Governments have understood that, probably civil servants is only one pathway, which is a great pathway. They are great civil servants, but there are complementing, skills required from the private sector. If you look at most of the work done in ministries, one or two consulting firms are working from the development consulting side, right? Samagra, Satwa, BCG Social Practice, McKinsey
Yeah.
Social Practice,
Yeah.
Dalberg, Britspan. So this is this one space of development consulting which has emerged in the last 5 to 7 years, wherein the government needs you, the civil society needs you, right? And you're trying to sort of bring in those professional skills, the structured way of working in governance as well as in policy making, right? The second is the civil society itself, right? Which is, the ones which are able to attract good funding, get good funding, are able to get good talent as well, and are able to solve a wider array of problems, right? So this civil society space getting professionalized, getting good jobs, decent pay packages will attract a lot of talent, right? The other thing is tech policy. Nobody knows this better than you. There is a huge tech policy, and the fact that India is going on the digital India pathway, everything with the 5G coming in is supposed to move, and we are a state which is sort of fairly quickly moved on to the smartphone generation. Even, I mean, you'll be surprised, you go to districts as far as Junjunu and Jaisalmer, you'll find a lot of people using smartphones, right? And the penetration is going to increase ever further, right? So how do you position yourself in this digital economy, and the clash between the private sector, the governance, civil society, judiciary is going to be ever confusing and ever more convoluting, right? So you need professionals who can manage this complex ecosystem, right? The other obviously is multilateralism, right? As India becomes more global in its outlook than it's already is, more and more multilaterals will have larger offices in India, and they'll need professionals who are Indians rather than people flying in from other countries to work as professionals here. They'll require a lot of Indian based support. Think tanks, we already have a lot more are coming up. But think tanks are a great place for public policy professionals to engage with. And so is then looking at just the fact that you could be a social entrepreneur. And so one of my favorite courses, coincidentally, was at the business school, the business at the base of pyramid, which taught by Kasturi Rangan, Professor Kasturi Rangan. And this course actually is my favorite because it shows that the base of the pyramid population maybe not having the paying capacity as much, but the base is so huge that you could still run a profitable, socially focused business, right? So there's space of social entrepreneurship. Politics, right? As we develop as a nation will have its Obama moment one day or the other, right? So when that Obama moment happens, do we have the best lawyers, best engineers, best doctors to actually come forward and take their rightful place to run the governance of the country? Yes. So this is in a space is the ever growing policy space. I would say get the best mentorship, get the best degrees, get the best learning experience at this time, so that in the next 5 years you could make the full use of being at the top of India's growth story.
This is wonderful, Prateek. Truly India's decade. At least I hope all the stars align. Maybe just one small bit that I could add is identify the sectors well. It's something you've stated already, right? So, for example, it's my personal opinion that in future all policy will do tech policy. Like even the Ministry of Health is adding more tech policy people than public health professionals, right? Given the digital health mission and all. Have been working in this space for limited. I just turned 25. I've been working for 4 years, but one thing that I observed is that again, a rising tide lifts all boats. So if you're in a sector which is on the upswing, right, you will find roles and interesting and meaningful work, right? But we won't keep you for any longer. This has been really helpful again for audiences. If there's any other guest you think we should get, please let us know in comments. Any other topic, let us know. Any feedback. We'll have Prateek's LinkedIn in the show notes, as well as the post here shared for HKS, right? All in the show notes. Please go there, engage, reach out to him. He's very kind, very generous with his time. But more than that, Prateek, we'll quickly close this up. But thank you so much for your time today. It means a lot.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.